Boeing 737 MAX. This aircraft, once a symbol of cutting-edge aviation technology, has had a series of dangerous and alarming technical failures. More recently, in January 2024, the FAA grounded some 737 MAX 9s following an incident with Alaska Airlines Flight 1282.
Yes, we are emergency. We are depressurized. We do need to return back to. We have 177 passengers. We're 18-8.
Which experienced a mid-flight blowout due to a plugged emergency exit leading to rapid decompression. From software malfunctions and faulty sensors to the discovery of metal fragments in its wiring that could ignite fires mid-flight, the issues have been both varied and severe. However, the most shocking of these was when part of the aircraft's exterior detached during a flight. These technical problems have had tragic consequences, contributing to the loss of over 300 lives and raising serious questions about the balance between profit and safety. Despite these concerns, and despite other countries banning the aircraft, the Boeing 737 MAX continues to fly in the United States, a decision influenced by Boeing's payment of $2.5 billion following a major crash in its effective lobbying efforts. So why should you avoid flying a 737 MAX? Well, let's take a look inside. The influence and linkage between corruption, lobbying, and the continued use of Boeing planes, despite their risk and problems, is a multifaceted issue that involves the intertwining of corporate power, political lobbying, and regulatory oversight. Boeing's lobbying efforts, particularly in relation to the 737 MAX, reveal the company's significant influence in shaping aviation policy and regulation. The Federal Aviation Administration, also known as the FAA, faced criticism for its role in the 737 MAX saga, particularly regarding its certification processes and the oversight of Boeing. The FAA's Organizational Destination Authorization, or the ODA program, was initiated in 2005 and allowed aircraft manufacturers like Boeing considerable authority to certify the safety of their own planes, with limited federal oversight. This program has been repeatedly criticized for not prioritizing oversight of high-risk areas like new aircraft designs and for lacking a system to determine if the teams overseeing certifications were actually adequately staffed. Moreover, during the 737 MAX certificate process, the FAA reportedly gave Boeing nearly complete control as the company raced to finish the plane to compete with a rival manufacturer. The FAA engineers were found to have not fully understood the automated MCAS system that contributed to the crashes, and the regulator had never independently assessed the risk of the system before approving the jet. Boeing's lobbying endeavors have also extended into international trade deals and exports, highlighting its ability to influence and shape industry standards and regulations. This influence is further underlined by Boeing's annual revenues, which reflect the success of its lobbying power in securing contracts and navigating regulatory challenges. The controversies surrounding Boeing's lobbying activities include ethical concerns about prioritizing corporate profits over public welfare and the stifling of competition and innovation in the aerospace sector. There is a clear lack of transparency of Boeing's lobbying practices, arguing that it can erode public trust and lead to a lack of accountability. In summary, the complex relationship between Boeing, the FAA, and Congress demonstrates the potential impact of corporate lobbying on safety regulations and oversight in the aviation industry. It also shows the negative impact that capitalism has on public safety. The case of Boeing 737 MAX serves as a cautionary tale of how significant industry lobbying can potentially influence regulatory bodies, often raising questions about the balance between corporate interests, capitalism, and public safety. And we would say when it comes to the intersection point of those three, there really is no balance. The scales tip in favor of capitalist dollars. But at the heart of this issue is Boeing's immense influence in Washington and within the aviation space. As one of the largest aerospace manufacturers and defense contractors globally, Boeing wields considerable economic and political clout. This power is exerted through extensive lobbying efforts which involve significant expenditures to influence lawmakers and regulatory bodies. The effectiveness of these lobbying efforts was thrown into sharp relief following the 737 MAX disasters. The Boeing 737 MAX has been embroiled in controversy due to several serious technical problems. These issues include software glitches, malfunctioning sensors, and even dangerous fragments of metal found within the aircraft's wiring, which could potentially lead to fires during the flight. In a concerning turn of events, a part of the aircraft's exterior was reported to have detached during a flight. These issues have contributed to the tragic loss of over 300 lives, raising questions about the company's commitment to safety over financial gain. Despite the mounting evidence of safety concerns, Boeing managed to maintain substantial support and leniency from key regulators and lawmakers, raising questions about the integrity of the process meant to safeguard aviation. Now, the corruption angle becomes more pronounced when considering how Boeing's lobbying efforts have translated into tangible regulatory and legislative outcomes. Reports and investigations following the 737 MAX incidents revealed a concerning pattern of regulatory capture, where Boeing appeared to exert undue influence over the FAA, the very agency tasked with regulating it. This was evident in the FAA's initial reluctance to ground the 737 MAX fleet, and in the process of certifying the aircraft, which investigations later criticized as a major flaw. The relationship between Boeing and the FAA was so intertwined that Boeing was found to have had undue influence over key safety decisions, and FAA officials were reported to have faced pressure from Boeing to expedite or overlook safety concerns, which by any court system would be a clear conflict of interest. Moreover, Boeing's political contributions to key lawmakers further illuminate the depth of its influence. These contributions, often channeled through political action committees, are aimed at gaining access and favor with those who have the power to shape aviation policy and regulation. The potential conflict of interest is clear. Lawmakers who are supposed to provide oversight and hold corporations accountable may become less inclined to do so when their campaigns are partially financed by the very entities that they should regulate. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes. The crux of the issue lay in the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, which is also known in shorthand as MCAS. And MCAS is a critical system whose repeated malfunctions led to the tragic crashes of Lion Air Flight 6110 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, resulting in the loss of 346 lives. These disasters prompted a global grounding of the 737 MAX fleet from March 2019 all the way until November 2020, an unprecedented move in modern aviation history. As the world watched, the FAA came under fire for its initial defense of the aircraft and its delayed response in grounding it, which trailed behind other major aviation authorities by a long shot. The ensuing investigations uncovered a disturbing picture of Boeing's efforts to hide defects and significant lapses in the FAA's aircraft certification process. The financial fallout for Boeing was enormous. By 2020, the company faced an estimated $20 billion in fines, compensation, and legal costs, with further indirect losses exceeding $60 billion due to over 1,200 canceled orders. In 2021, the legal woes continue as Boeing settled a Department of Justice fraud conspiracy case for $2.5 billion. But the story didn't end there. Further investigations revealed a troubling collusion between the FAA and Boeing during the recertification test flights, attempts to suppress critical information, and the FAA's retaliation against whistleblowers. In November 2020, the FAA gave the green light for the 737 MAX to return to service with mandatory design and training modifications. This decision was later echoed by Canadian and European authorities, and by December 2021, China was among the last to lift the grounding, with over 180 countries allowing the aircraft back into the skies. However, concerns about the aircraft's safety persisted. In January 2024, the FAA took the significant step of grounding some 737 MAX 9s following an incident with Alaska Airlines Flight 1282, which we've all been seeing making the rounds on TikTok, Twitter, and across all social media. One thing I really want to point out here is that this was not an isolated incident. The 737 MAX and its variants, some updated from older models, had multiple instances of uncontrolled depressurization, raising serious questions about their structural integrity. One stark example of this is a particularly harrowing incident when a passenger on a Southwest Airlines flight suffered fatal injuries after being partially ejected through a window shattered by engine debris, a chilling reminder of the potential dangers. As the investigations unfolded, it became clear that the issues with the 737 MAX were not just mechanical, but systemic, stemming from a culture of profit over safety. Boeing's vigorous public relations campaigns to restore faith in the 737 MAX clashed with ongoing revelations about the company's lobbying efforts to bypass critical safety standards, which, in conclusion, the 737 MAX saga is just another tragic reminder of the dangers posed when corporate interests override safety concerns. It underscores the need for stringent regulatory oversight, transparency, and accountability in an industry where the stakes are literally life and death. The FAA, in its failure to fulfill its role as a watchdog, and Boeing, in its reckless pursuit of profit, have both betrayed the public's trust with catastrophic consequences. So by now you're probably thinking, okay, I have all of this information, but what is the solution here? And how can I check whether I'm flying a 737 before my next trip? Whether it's a 737 MAX 8, MAX 9, NG, or MAX 700, the trick here is really in the details. When you're booking your flight, whether it's directly with an airline like United or through third-party sites like Expedia or Travelocity, before you purchase your flight, dive into the more details or more info section. So for example, say you're flying United Airlines or Delta or Southwest, and you're eyeing a 10:45 p.m. flight. What you want to do is hit the detail and seat map section, and there you'll see what type of aircraft you're flying on. It could be a Boeing 757-200, or it could be something else. And if you're using the third-party site and not an app, pretty much the same thing. Just click on those details and you'll see if you're boarding a Boeing. Now, one thing I want to emphasize of where things get kind of tricky and how it's kind of hard to actually avoid flying a Boeing, even if you choose your selection, is an instance where you might have done all your homework and went on the app and searched the type of aircraft you're on and selected the aircraft that you feel most comfortable flying. However, you could still end up staring at a Boeing 737 MAX at the gate. Why? Because sometimes planes get swapped last minute due to maintenance issues or other logistical concerns. So there is always a risk of having to fly if you do need to switch flights, or if your previous flight was canceled. And the messed up part about that is that if a Boeing MAX shows up on the TAR map and that's your only way home, most airlines will just consider that tough luck, and they aren't really willing to offer refunds or rebookings just based on specific Boeing MAX versions. But with that being said, it is always best to try and avoid these aircrafts as best as we can and with as much power as we do hold when buying our ticket. So good luck and stay safe, flyers.